All right, here we go. Sorry, guys. Happy Wine Wednesday. I know you guys saw us for a second at the beginning, but um, you know, things happen. I was explaining in the group chat that I have a Mac and, I love it. Don't get me wrong. But when you work with Apple products, my phone is the same way. If you don't do the updates they want to be done, then they start acting wonky, right? Like with my phone, if I all of a sudden can't talk to text, because I'm a big talk to texter, no time to sit and type, then all of a sudden it'll stop working and I'll be like, oh, I need an update, right? So this computer, we've been having some audio issues. If you guys hear during Wine Wednesday that, you guys are echoing or this person sounds bad, make sure you let us know. What we're going to do today is I'm going to like back out, update my computer while we're live because I don't have any time to do it. We now have a lag time, Ray said. So I think some of these issues will be fixed we always have a lag time. There's always a lag. But either way, I think some of these issues will be fixed once my computer updates because the stream is coming from my computer. Sometimes it'll come from Sophie, sometimes it'll come from mine. Tonight I started it, so therefore I need to update. So I'm going to let them talk about A, peroxide that Sophie's trying, B, whatever else they were talking about while I was trying to fix things. They've got lots of stuff to talk about. And of course, if you have a question, it is open chat tonight. So ask in the comments and everyone will discuss it. I will still be here just in the background trying to fix my computer. And I have complete faith that these guys could talk all night about seahorses because we all love seahorses, right? Next week, I'll just say for now, watch the posts because we may have a very special guest next week, maybe. Watch for posts and we'll talk about that some more. Feel free if you want to talk about that, but if you don't, that's fine. We can leave it to the posts. But I'm going to shush now and say, what were you guys talking about before I interrupted and got us live?
Raising
We were
fries.
All right. Well, I'm going to go update and you guys chat and I will be back. And just don't let there be dead air. Talk about something and I'll be back. And anybody, they know what I know. So, if I hear something that's being said that I don't agree with, I'm going to pipe up. But I am here and I'll be back shortly. Okay. Go.
all right. So we were just talking about. I did some peroxide dips with the brine shrimp. I was doing that experiment that I said about last week, where I did some peroxide dip with I did peroxide dip with one jar, and no peroxide dips with the other jar, for the brine shrimp to put in the jars. And I actually had a lot of deaths, more deaths in the one with the peroxide jar. I was just talking though that they had a really rough start. So that might be a problem.
So
And
real
then
quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. I interrupt. I apologize. But real quick, tell us, back up even further for somebody who just came to this stream, wasn't here last week, wasn't here the week before. Why were you even trying to do this? Did somebody possibly tell you that this would help you? Go ahead.
yeah, so both Kelly and Holly said it would help because it helped them a lot. I was doing the experiment though because Ray said that for him it didn't help that much. So I was trying to see who kind of
Yeah, we lost
if
you.
it would help that much, if it would make a really big difference for it. And then because Holly, you said that it helped a lot, right?
Yeah, it helped me a lot. I'm curious how how did separate, like, did you put the seahorses in two separate jars so that some of them got the peroxide shrimp and some of them got the non-peroxided shrimp? Is that how you did it?
Yeah. I have the 2 jars here. You can, well, I can't move the jar. It's like stuck to the table.
Well, and Sophie, hey Sophie, every time you move, your audio cuts in and out. So don't move. But
Okay, I will move, but you can see the 2 jars there.
yes.
Of the fry.
So Holly, what were you thinking? Maybe stress kind of thing, or?
I don't know. It's hard to say. We were talking about earlier that she was thinking maybe because she didn't start this batch of fry with the peroxide treated brine shrimp. But I didn't either. When I had mine and I started using the peroxide, I want to say the babies that I had were about 2 weeks in, and I was having a lot of losses. And the losses stopped when I started using the peroxide. But that may have been coincidental because like I was saying, I never compared. Once I started using the peroxide, I continually used it. So I didn't do an experiment like Sophie's doing to see. It might not have been the peroxide that made a difference. It might, might have been something else.
So I'm terrified now to go and do, because my system is ready to update, but I'll be physically gone. I won't be able to hear you guys or talk. I just want to say for the record, Dan swears by using peroxide in the Artemia process. I trust Dan. You're right. I've never done a comparison like Sophie is doing, but there's other. So just like you said, Holly, that it could have not been the thing that helped. It could have just been the batch. It could have been this. It could have been that.
Other factors.
That's also true for Sophie's experiment, right? It could have been that because she was using jars, they were like, in my thought, you're pulling a seahorse, putting it in a jar, it's going to be stressed out, right? It is just my thought process because I understand why and what you're trying to accomplish, but you have to think with seahorses, the main key thing is keeping them stress-free because stress lowers immune system, blah, 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 blah. I also know, thank you, Shyla, I wanted to say, for posting the recipe because I'm still trying to get it on the website, but for using peroxide in a hatchery situation. And I'm just wondering, like sometimes, and Sophie, I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to me and to everyone else. Sometimes it's human error, right? If you use too much, if you don't use enough, if whatever. And the peroxide really is the main key to the peroxide treatment in the hatchery process is to clean the food, right? That's the bottom line. It's not doing anything or helping anything except for cleaning bacteria off the food so that your fry are not eating food that could possibly have bacteria. Because think about our hatcheries. We talk all the time about, hey, you need this big tank for seahorses. They need a lot of water volume. They need a really clean tank, and they eat all the time. You talk about our hatcheries, God knows what grows in that stuff, right?
And I have pictures to share, so I do have stuff to share.
Shoot, I won't be able
Would
to
it
let
be maybe that the peroxiding is helping for some and not others because of what they're using to feed the Artemia with? It might be that some people have food and the particular brand that they're using, it may be processed better or looked after better in the packaging so that it's less of a problem. And then there may be other companies that aren't as diligent and they're having more problems because of that food that's introduced.
Guys, I think they're about to cut me off. I think my computer literally is about to cut me off. I would say keep talking. If you lose the stream, we will be right back after my system updates, but it shouldn't happen that way. And I agree with you, Ray. And for anybody watching, though, I don't want you guys to feel like, oh, they don't even know. But nobody knows, right? but if it's working for you, then use it. If it's not, so the peroxide, just like Holly was
Can't hurt.
describing, is something that can't hurt, and it's also something that we were introduced to when we were having problems with fry, right?
Mhm.
So if your fry are doing great, no need, right?
Mhm.
Ray never found a reason to use it. He had
Well,
maybe
I used it,
Mhm.
but I
okay.
just didn't see that much difference in the yields that I can recall. Like, this is a long time ago, but I don't, in my memory bank, I don't have a recollection that it was a noticeable difference when I started using it.
All right, guys, I'm gonna try to press this. You guys keep talking. I hope to God you don't lose the
Mhm.
stream. I'll be back.
All right.
Maybe. All right.
We're crossing fingers for you.
I know, right? Keep talking. Talk about why you're using it. What? Keep talking. Don't let
Yeah.
me.
So I think too, another thing we were discussing before we went live is that this is only the third batch for Sophie's seahorses, right? And they're young.
Yeah, I
So,
may have a few more batches before they're even viable. I just, when I look at them, it kind of seems to me because they seem like healthy enough. They don't
mhm,
seem like very transparent. They hitch
mhm,
on quickly. I have seen them eat. So these are all signs to me that like they are viable, but I may be wrong about that. What do you think,
mhm,
Ray?
I think that if they are not viable and you think they are, you're going to know all of a sudden when you get a batch that are viable. You
mhm,
Until you experience it, you just don't know. Now, if you start off with seahorses and they're viable right from the start, you're never going to notice that difference. But um, in my case, over all those years, I've come to realize that there's a lot of times that I had non-viable fry to start with, and then all of a
mhm.
sudden you get fry, and you know you're going to do better this time because there's a
Yes.
difference in them.
Hindsight is
Yeah.
2020 in this. Yeah,
That's not
looking
something
back,
anybody can tell you or explain to you. It's
yeah,
something.
until you've seen it and experienced it, you don't have anything really to compare to. Is the thing, because that happened to me too. I mean, later when that seahorse had the batch of 163 and they were different than his first batches, I was like, oh, the light bulb came on, but I had nothing to compare to, until
Yeah.
then. So, I mean, you can look
Yeah,
at
no,
people's pictures and things, but it's not the same as seeing your own.
I don't like I have no clue what like viable fry look like. I just know what I have.
Yeah.
Um and I know what they look like, but I don't know what viable fry would look like, what difference I would see. So, I'm just like eyeballing it right now.
Well, back when I never had anything to, I never had a cam or anything, and I got the wife to bring home um, the one from her department. Um, she was in medical biophysics at the university here, and they had a digital camera there, but I had to wait until there was a weekend where nobody was using it, and had to have it coincide with when there was fry being bored, and it took it was over a couple of months, I think, before I finally got ones that were not viable, and then ones that were viable. And once I got videos of both of them, and I started comparing them, I couldn't see the difference on the video. And that ticked me off of all that time that I wasted. You could see it
Yeah.
live, you couldn't tell in the darn video.
Yeah, I don't because I've seen videos of people who have like fry and those fry survive, but I don't really see a difference.
I had
And
some that
Kelly,
were
it is
very
the third
weak
batch.
survive. I had one, my seahorse, I named Scrappy Doo. That was why I named him Scrappy Doo, because he was a little scrap of a thing. He was born in a batch of 13 seahorses were born. I had 3 survivors that made it to, I want to say, about the second, third month, maybe. And they were all weak. You know, he was just a scrap of a thing, but he lived. And he ended up being one of my biggest seahorses, big, healthy seahorse. And
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to survive, but he was a fighter. So you never know. I think I just got lucky, with some of mine too.
Yeah.
Only the
And to
strongest
answer
survive around here.
and to answer Kelly your question, do they seem bigger each batch? I don't even know because okay, they always die before the second batch is born. So I can never see them actually side by side, but I wouldn't say a whole lot bigger, no. Like I wouldn't say that I look at them and I see a difference. They may be slightly, but I don't see
uh,
it.
I
Um
like Ray's. So Kelly says, "What describes viable, though?" And Ray says, "When they don't all
like
die."
Yeah, if they've never
Good
had
one.
any that lived before and they still don't have any living, then it's not a viable batch.
The ones that survive, they must be viable. So I can tell you a little bit from my experience. So the ones that look like a string with a horse head on top, they usually don't make it. But the more they look like an adult seahorse, like filled out like an adult, the closer they look to a tiny version of an adult, the better a chance they have, I think. The skinny, scrawny ones are ones that I'm not going to say they definitely won't make it because I've raised some like Scrappy Doo was, you know, he probably was not a viable fry, but he survived, so I guess he became viable. So
mine
you
look
can kind of tell by their shape a little bit.
they're kind of stringy, but they do
Yeah.
have like a body. Like you can see the body.
Mhm.
It's just that they kind of look like a string a little bit.
Mhm. So it's harder for them, I think, to survive when they're born that way. When they're looking more, the closer they look to an adult seahorse in miniature, I think the better a chance they have. Because when Sandy had his batch of 163, they looked more like tiny little seahorses with the full body and everything than they did
Like
a string with a head.
I can see the body and everything. Like I can see it that they look like seahorses,
Mhm.
but they are really skinny as well. Like
Okay, yeah.
yeah. And Shyla asked if I could get a hold of frozen copepods from where I am. She was lucky to have Fry. Oops, scroll down.
I'll look
Mhm.
and see if I
Have
still got some
Fry that
freeze-dried
snips on
ones left.
those.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think.
I use freeze-dried ones and then reconstitute them. Like put them in the salt water, soak them until
Mhm.
they look viable again, and that's what I used. But I used
Mhm.
those for the reed-eye fry because they take smaller food at the start than what the rectus do. But I um can't see why you shouldn't be able to use them for a rectus.
Mhm.
I'll look in the
Yeah.
freezer, see
Yeah,
if I still got
Mine
them.
ate copepods, so yeah, for the babies, they eat copepods, so I think you're right, they
because
would.
if Ray doesn't have them, I don't think I've seen them in any stores. I might be able to ship them in potentially, but I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
ordered them from Brine Shrimp Direct.
Brunch direct. I will look
They
into
have
it.
everything.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
check out Brine
everything's
Shrimp
going to be
Direct. They have
expensive
a
now.
lot of good, helpful stuff.
With
That's
this tariff,
interesting. So
it's
Kelly
going to
thinks
cost you
the
right away.
head of the baby seahorses, you can tell. She says if they have a huge head, the dad didn't give them enough nutrition.
I wouldn't say that they have a huge head. Like not well, like it's not quite the same as like the adults,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like it's a little bigger than the adults, but I wouldn't say that it's like huge compared to their body. So I don't know exactly. And the feeding regime for which ones? Babies or the parents? The babies, right, Kelly? Is that what you mean by what's because for the babies, I feed them either once or twice a day, depending on what I can do that day. Um, how much time I have, and I just put brine shrimp in, and I just let them eat them themselves. And I'll enrich the brine shrimp beforehand, from like 12 hours before. Um, yeah. Oh wait, actually, I have a question for you guys. If I were to give the brine shrimp enrichment at night, would it make a difference to giving them enrichment during the day?
Nope.
No? Okay,
Mm.
we'll
The
still.
way I did, I had 2 batches of brine shrimp going at all times. I fed twice a day. So I had them on a 12-hour schedule. And I just have
Oh, she's talking about doing it at night instead of day. Isn't that what you said?
like
No, I'll do it. I do it twice a day. Generally, I do it in the morning and then like evening. But I was
mhm.
wondering if feeding the brine shrimp, so the enrichment, would it have any consequences of doing it at night, like when all the lights are turned off?
No, that doesn't make any difference. The thing is, first of all, to enrich them or the gut load, you have to get by the Instar 1 stage.
Yeah.
In other words, you're going to have to let them go for about a day until they, the Instar 2 stage, then their digestive tract can accept it. But it takes the Napoli a long time to get anything through them. It's about a 12-hour period to get to a gut loaded stage where you just have sufficient in the digestive tract. But if you go a second 12-hour stage with new water, new enrichment, that second 12-hour stage now will allow time enough for that enrichment to start becoming assimilated into the flesh. And then they're, obviously they're a lot more value at that point to feed, because the seahorses, when they eat them, they're going to get more than just what's in the digestive tract.
Yeah. See, that's generally the schedule I follow. So I'll make sure to hatch them like a few days, like I'll make sure to put the eggs in the water a few days before, and then they'll hatch, and then I'll generally have enough time for them to just sit for 24 hours, get out of the Star 1
Well,
stage, and then to
even if it goes a couple days extra before the fry come out, there's no problem. They can still handle. Like, I can recall using 5-day-old, 6-day-old on newborn fry.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally I just don't
Now,
hatch them
not on
quite that
pelagic
early.
I
fry.
had like a production line going because I had like 4 hatcheries going. Now, the feeding times for the babies were multiple times a day. I'd add I'd do a morning and afternoon regular feeding, but I'd keep an eye on them throughout the day, and if it looked like there wasn't enough brine shrimp in there, I'd add more. So it was like a continuous feeding for them, all day long till lights were out. And then I was raising some of the brine shrimp I hatched to adult, because one thing that I figured out was that as the babies grow bigger, if you start feeding them that bigger brine shrimp that's the same age as they are, they start to
Yeah.
learn to eat bigger food earlier, and they'll transition easier onto frozen food because they'll be used to eating things that size. So when the baby
Yeah.
seahorses are about 5 or 6 or 7 weeks old, you're trying to get them to eat the frozen food. If they're eating brine shrimp that's about the same age as they are, like if you have, yeah, it makes it easier for that transition.
Yeah. The only thing is that I don't have to set up to grow them to adults. And right
It
now
takes a
I
lot of
don't. Yeah.
space. I had a whole room. Like when I share my pictures, you'll see what I had going, but my house looked like a science lab.
Yeah. See, I don't have quite that much space because it's contained in my bedroom. I have a fairly big bedroom. I'm lucky to have that. But I just have them like here in this corner. And I don't know if my parents really want me to expand downstairs. I'm sure it'll
Take
happen
over
at
the
one point.
house.
Yeah. If,
They kind of
okay,
have a
I might
way of
move down.
doing that. They took over mine.
I might I might have them downstairs one day. We'll see. It depends on how much I can convince my parents of expanding.
Good luck.
All right. And then
Maybe
Kelly,
you can have them do like our friend Heather did. Her husband built her a sea shed for the seahorses. So like a she shed, but she had all her tanks in there and all the stuff for the seahorses, so it wouldn't
see,
be in the
I
house.
don't think my parents would be willing to do that considering I'm gonna move out in like 4 or 5 years, something like that. I'm gonna have to take this contraption with me. Um, and yeah, we'll see what I do when I move out. And then Kelly asked, Kelly said she fed hers 6 times a day. And Ray, how long does the enrichment work? Meaning, if you feed enriched brine, when is the enrichment absorbed? I'm not completely sure what that
Well,
means. But Ray,
I'm not sure what she was saying there myself, but if you enrich brine shrimp, uh, and especially if you gut load them, they're going to lose their nutrition fairly fast because they pass stuff through their digestive tract just like seahorses do, and so their feces are going to take out. That's expelling all the nutrient that they put in. However, if you do that second 12-hour stage where now it's become assimilated into the flesh of the brine, then they're going to hold on to it a bit longer. But the fact is that as soon as they're not in that enrichment environment and continually feeding on it, then as soon as you take them out of that to feed to the seahorses, that level starts to drop off. I actually don't know the rate that it drops off. And the article from the University of Ghent on Artemia, there's nothing in there about how fast they lose that enrichment either. And they're the be all, they're the ones that have all the information on Artemia.
okay.
So
Yeah,
it's just a case of uh, like if Kelly's feeding them 6 times a day, you can't do much better than that. If you're going to feed them just once or twice a day, then you need something else. Like my preference was to when I had them in those jars, I like to use the green water in there as well, so that the Artemia were always feeding on the green water. So while it's not as good as the enrichment that I enrich them with first, it still is something. So that if it's a few hours later or whatever, um, any nutrition lost will at least be partially regained from eating the green water. And the other aspect of it is The green water can also aid in making sure any ammonia produced from the urine that this fry are putting out is absorbed because the green water will feed on it.
Oh, okay. I've never thought of that. So would you say that I should be putting green water in my jars, like in my fry jars? Would you say that's like
Well,
a better idea than not having it?
you don't have room to grow it.
Okay. Oh yeah. No. I mean, so
I was
but for
growing it
someone,
in a bunch of
I-
5-gallon pails and then 26-gallon garbage pails.
okay,
You
but
don't have room for that.
right, for someone who does have the space, would it be better to have it in your fry jars? Like, would you recommend it if they had the space and the time to do that?
Well, I didn't do any studies or comparisons to know whether it actually was better. It was something I did because my analytical mind figured, well, I've got these Artemia in there, but I can't put enrichment in there because that promotes the bacteria growth. But if I put in uh, the green water, which was nanochloropsis that I use it, mainly because it's so darn easy to maintain a culture, whereas some of the more valuable uh, algae are somewhat more difficult to maintain. And to get an ideal blend of nutrient, you would need a blend of all the different microalgae because um, they all have varying levels of different things, and you have to get the right blend to get the right mix that you want for a proper level. So it can get quite complicated. And uh, for me now to tell you which ones you needed and how much of each one, like this is too many years ago for this mind to remember now. But my reasoning at that point was the green water, the nanochloropsis, it was better than nothing. And then
Yeah.
the fact that I don't like testing water, and even though I was changing the water every other day, still there was the possibility, I thought, that there might be ammonia produced in that tank there. And I'm not using filters in the systems that I was using then. And so I used the green water for the two reasons: to handle the urine flow, or in other words, the ammonia, and to keep some nutrition into the Artemia.
Okay.
I would
And
say
then,
feed more. If you want to see, maybe
yeah.
be feeding them more. They should be able to eat constantly all day long. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely not going to be growing green water right now. That's not on my to-do list for now.
Yeah, give
But
them
yeah,
more
I will.
food.
I'll try
More
doing
is
that.
better. More is better. Maybe you need to hatch more.
Small,
Yes.
put fewer amounts in at a time, but do it like Kelly, 6 times a day.
Yeah, have your mom put
It's
one in.
harder. It's harder for you with the workload that you have. But
Well, it's okay. I'm sure my
Well, you
mom will
know
be
what,
okay with.
though? I did all right with twice a day. When I did have to leave the house, I would give them a ton of baby brine shrimp to eat while I was gone. And then I'd come back and do a water change and feed them again. So
Well,
you
yeah, I'm sure
can,
I
like,
can
on
ask
days
my
you
mom
have
to
to be
feed me.
away, but just make sure they have plenty to eat all day long is the thing. However you do it. But remember,
Yeah.
when you have a ton of food in there, that's polluting their water. So you're probably going to have to change it more often if the food density is higher all day.
And so also with that, Zen asked, aren't baby brine shrimp less nutritional in general after 48 hours? Is there a magic window where they are enriched enough but not so grown they are not as nutritional? Is there? Or Ray, I know that you mentioned that you fed them after 5 or 6 days. So does it matter?
I think
They said
you're
around.
referring to
I-
it. There's an egg yolk attached, right? When they hatch, that they feed off
So I
of
just
for
know
a
that like
while.
after that, but then he's like, because Zen asks after 48 hours, is like, is that a specific window,
Well,
or is it?
I know of nothing at all to any limit. If you're enriching them, if you're growing them on, and for instance, I used the spirulina with the Algamax,
Yeah.
and if you keep on at day 7, they're still going to be enriched if you continue to use the enrichment. Sure, the enrichment leaves them, but it's keeping that body, uh, the nutrients assimilated into the body, and it may be, although I can't prove it and haven't seen any statistics on it, it may be that feeding them over 4, 5, 6 days, and um, and adding the enrichment as well as the food, it may be the nutrient level is even better at that point than at a younger day. But there is no way that I can conceive of them being of less value after 48 hours, unless you're going to quit giving them the nutrient or the enrichment. And enrichment isn't even, if you stop on the enrichment, it's not going to even last a full day, let alone 48 hours.
So in that general direction, I was talking to someone on Instagram. Their account is called F That Noise. They have a few aquariums. They have never actually had seahorses before. But they heard about the two batches that I lost. And they were asking me, would it be better, like, because I use like fresh salt water, not tank water. So they
Right?
were saying because the beneficial bacteria from my tank, could that help
No,
fry?
no.
No?
The
Yeah.
beneficial bacteria are for what, and as a matter of fact, the beneficial bacteria are not in the water. They are on the surfaces. And
Yes.
for instance, for your nitrate, it's within the rock where there's no oxygen getting to it. It's anaerobic. But all of the beneficial bacteria are not doing a thing to add into that tank unless you are doing your fry in a system that is cycled and maintain it that way. But for you and the method you're using, which is what I did, uh, you have no cycle going at all. And the beneficial bacteria are not going to do a damn thing because you have nothing for them to work on.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so I didn't assume that was right just because you've always told me to use like fresh salt water. They also talked on like they talked about like nurseries that
Well,
hang over.
Sophie,
using
you
again.
can't move. You can't move.
Sorry.
Your audio goes out. Go ahead.
There's like nurseries that hang on the outside and then like go back in. I was just skeptical of that because of the brine shrimp. I don't know how you really keep the brine shrimp in. They said they used it for clownfish.
Well, the
But I
other
just
problem.
Shyla raised some that way. Yeah, Shyla did hers, remember, in the tank, which
It's
I had never
riskier.
seen before.
So
That,
so
yeah.
so
You're
it's a.
subjecting them to the pathogens that are already in
Thank
the
you, Ray.
tank.
Thank you, Ray. So the adults can handle stuff that the babies can't, right?
Yeah,
They're
their immune systems developed, and the
right.
babies are not.
And I'm back, by the way, interrupting as always. Hey. But there were some questions we missed, and I did lose you guys when I was updating for a minute. So I don't know if I'm going backwards, and you've already answered these questions. I really do apologize. I know, Sophie, you did an excellent job, and I saw you got Zen Ginger's question and such, but I was looking. My question was when
Now
we
I
were talking.
used a sponge filter, like
Okay.
speaking of bacteria and stuff, because I saw Zen was asking about that, using filter media with a fry tank. I did. I used a sponge filter. And what I did, and I think I still have some because I save them in case I need them for transporting seahorses in an emergency. I keep sponge filters in my sump
Mhm.
as, just as part of the sump. And then if I need one for a small tank for some reason, I can pull out the filter sponge and use that. And I did use those in my fry tanks.
Absolutely. And I would say, like, just like everything else with seahorses, there are multiple ways to do this.
Mhm.
The way Sophie is doing this because of space is different than the way I did it. I always used K1, skimmer, all that stuff in a sump underneath my, well, that's not true. When I first started, I did small tanks
In
and just did
containers, like
massive water changes.
mhm.
But then once I got going, Sophie, I'm sorry to tell you, your parents are going to have to build you a big production center out back because, yeah, no. But once you get into fry, if you enjoy it and you're doing it, in my case, I went from small tanks like Sophie's doing with her jars to, tubs with a sump underneath with
Mhm.
beneficial bacteria. So when you get serious about fry, or Zen, if you're talking about setting up a seahorse tank, that beneficial bacteria is extremely important and can minimize some headaches. But you have to have the space, you have to be able to set up the sump, and like in Sophie's case, she can't. So
I do have a few pictures to share.
let's
If
share them.
that might give us something to talk about
Yes,
too.
let's do it.
Okay.
It says zip code has
959454. Sorry, my husband's asking
Now
me.
we all know your zip code.
Yeah,
Awesome. Okay.
95954. Okay. So let's see what I got. I just have a few right now.
Oops. Wrong thing to share.
Let me
Okay.
get
Here we
the
go.
Wine Wednesday chat off of here and I'll kind of show. We'll start with this one since we're talking about. So this was what I actually raised my fry in. These were the tanks I used. So this one here on the left, it was just a plastic cylinder tank. It was 2 gallons, I want to say. I got it at Walmart, I think, for not very much. I think under $20. And I put a sponge filter in there. You could see that. And then for hitching, they had a thing of gutter guard and this little plastic plant thing. And this was when they were newborns. So they stayed in here, I want to say a couple weeks, 2, 3 weeks. When they started growing a little bit, I moved them to this thing over here. Is like a 12-gallon. It's a big octagon shape. And they grew up in that basically until I put them in the grow out tank after they were transitioned to frozen foods. This thing is what I use to check water temperature. It's a temperature reading gun. I got it at a hardware store. So that's, you can see, the equipment I used for actually the fry was very basic.
Yeah, so you used like actual tanks, not just jars or like
Yeah, and they started out, actually, you'll see pictures soon. I used a lot of fish bowls. I'd keep them like sometimes when they were newborn, it would depend on the size of the batch because you want to make sure they have enough food density. So you can't put them in too big of a container if there's only a few of them. So I use different things. Let's see if I can get to. So this is my brine shrimp station. So you could see
wow.
it took up quite a bit of room in my house. But what I had going here was the fish bowls are actually what I used for the enriching and the cleaning of the brine shrimp. So I'd have some that were in enrichment, and I had airlines that I could move to the different bowls. So I had like an assembly line going.
And
And
hold
some
on,
of
what are
them, like
those?
I said, these Tupperwares here are ones that I was raising to adult.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was gonna ask. Those,
And then here
that's,
are the
see,
buckets were copepods because I raised copepods also.
yeah, see, this is stuff I do not have room for to have quite this much stuff. I generally don't have a station set up. When I need a station, I'll like pull out the jars, put it on our counters,
Mm-hmm.
and then remove all of it 'cause I don't have space.
And one reason I have so many too, you can see I have a lot of containers because I switch stuff out because another thing you want to do is make sure you keep all your stuff really sterile. So
Yeah,
some of them would be off to the bleach bucket and then they'd be out drying outside, they'd get washed. So I needed something to use while that one's getting washed and dried out. So
yes. I
like
know
I
your famous
started
bleach
doing it,
bucket.
yeah, twice a day. So so I had stuff rotating, through to the bleach bucket and then, back into use. So here's all my brine shrimp stuff here. And this is funny. This is not set up yet. I was getting stuff out of the storage. You could see it's all dirty because I thought one of my males, I thought Scrappy Doo was pregnant. So I thought I was going to have to start doing brine shrimp all over again. So I pulled everything out. You could see there's
Yeah,
cobwebs on my hatcheries. so
yeah.
so yeah, this was what I used for hatching the brine shrimp. I used that, and also I had this is for cycling a tank, ammonia. Yeah, these were just pictures that came up in my memories.
So
There's
that's
the
funny though, real quick. Zen, as soon as you're done, Holly, we're gonna
Mhm.
look at the rest of your pictures. But Zen wanted to know about ammonia dosing and cycling and stuff like that. So glad you shared that. But go on, Holly. Sorry.
So I got these. You don't need these kind of hatcheries to hatch out brine shrimp. You can use any container really. But I got these and I liked them because I did not buy my eggs decapsulated. So they had shells on them. So what these did for me was when the brine shrimp hatched, I could put a little light down under here and the brine shrimp would be attracted and they'd all gather right here to be close to the light, and I could turn on this little faucet and fill a little jar with relatively clean brine shrimp because all the eggshells float at the top.
Yeah, that's how I do it too. I have like an upside down. It's from Ray as well. I think most of my stuff is from Ray.
Hmm.
It's an upside down top bottom.
And then I did raise
Sophie,
brine
wait,
shrimp and
Sophie,
copepods outside.
hang on. Sophie, you can't
Yeah.
move. Every time you move, we lose you.
Was I moving?
Every time you move, we lose your voice. Watch this later. Watch this
Okay,
episode
I
and you'll
think
see what I'm
that's
talking
it.
about. All
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
so here's equipment. So I think that's all. Oh, I got these little hatcheries and I really liked them because I could see when the hatch was happening. One thing I didn't like about the cones is because the water was moving all the time, but I had it bubbling. Couldn't really see the exact time that the brine shrimp would hatch. So
Yeah.
I got these little hatching boxes and I'd start these at the same time that I started the cones. And the way these work is the brine shrimp hatch inside the box and then they swim up into this jar. There's a hole in the jar, it sits upside down on here, and they
Yeah.
clean themselves off. And when I saw them come up there, then I knew the hatch was ready. And I
Yeah,
think that's
that's
all
interesting.
I had to share in that. But I have tons more pictures. They're going to have be coming up in my memories on Facebook. So as weeks go by, this is the time of year I was raising babies coming up. So I'll be able to see those and share them.
Is
And I
isn't
do
that
have
funny? Like,
albums of the baby seahorses too. I have so much baby seahorse videos.
check out Holly on
You have to
Facebook
find them.
for sure. And I would say too that that happens to me too. Like I have
Mhm.
60,000 photos. Ooh, and I have
I'm
something
so
going on outside. Sorry for the noise. But 60,000 photos. So like when I say, "Oh yeah, let me find that picture of the tubs." It's
uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I love when they come up in memories because then you're like, oh, there it is. Let me screenshot that shit.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah.
I love too. Jeez,
Mhm.
I don't know what's going on outside. Oh, it's the tornadoes. I'm in
Hold on,
Indiana,
my
y'all.
husband's getting loud too.
Yeah, can you guys hear that? Okay,
Yeah,
sorry. Well, I can't stop it. It's because there's
oh, it's
tornadoes all
okay.
over. Everyone pray for me. But I was gonna say, I think that you did an excellent job, Sophie, of not just getting answers for yourself, but saying, okay, well, if someone did have the space, what would you do? I did post a link about with that I did a video with Cheryl where she talked about setting up tubs with that sump underneath. If you have the room, you're able to do it. You're gonna have a more successful brood and oh,
Mhm.
that's driving me nuts. I'm sorry. But all I'm trying to say is there are different ways of doing it, and what you're doing is great. I'm backing up way to the start because I was typing, but on my phone, but I couldn't say anything. Sophie, would it be possible? I know that Holly gave you a great answer about feeding the fry more. And then I asked Ray about, how long does, when I was asking about the enrichment of Artemia, I meant once they hit the tank. So, meaning if you're feeding twice a day and you're doing
Mhm.
this big process to enrich Artemia, and then you're throwing them in the tank, but then they're there for hours and hours, they're no longer enriched,
Is
right?
it wearing off?
Yeah,
So my question was, could Sophie have a container where they're being enriched and then a container after that where maybe there's peroxide or treatment or whatever, and those fry are scooped out and used at different times, meaning like when she gets up, okay, here you guys go before I even brush my teeth, right? And then before she leaves, which is only half hour, but it's more
As long as
enriched.
there's, as long as they're kept in enrichment, they'll stay enriched. As soon as you take them out, they start losing their enrichment.
So how
I
long can
can't
you?
tell you how fast they lose it because there is no information
Yeah,
like that.
no, I
That
know.
link that I put up there, that's the Bible on Artemia,
Okay,
and there is no information that I ever found on that page that specified how long the enrichment would last.
right, and it's in the comments, guys, and I saw Zen bookmarked it. So and again, guys, we're talking about fry. With
Mhm.
larger seahorses, you don't have to go through all this. You really don't.
Yeah.
But so I
I would say
understand.
even non and even if it wears off, it's better than them not having food at all.
True, but what I was going to say is, Ray, you're the one that has always said the multiple feedings of less is better. So I'm just thinking for Sophie's case, if I, hey, I understand being busy. Please believe I understand that. Oh my God, I do. My poor seahorses are so neglected right now. But I'm just saying, when you have fry, if you're trying to actually raise them, and I do understand again, Sophie, in your case, you don't even have any place to put them. So you're like, do I
yeah,
really want them to survive? But for anybody else, if you're trying to have them survive, you can. And Ray has said this multiple times. You can feed as soon as you get up, before you
I
leave.
have a caveat to that.
Go ahead.
If you're going to put newly enriched ones in and leave in the old ones that are depleted, then they're going to be feeding on both enriched and depleted, and you're defeating the purpose there. So if you're going to be feeding them that often, it's advisable to have a way to remove what's in there already so that they're only going to be able to feed on the ones that have the most nutrient.
And that's a problem because, like, how do you remove them without replacing them?
Well, we can't hear you.
How do you remove the brine shrimp without replacing the water?
Well,
I removed the seahorses and put them in fresh water with fresh food.
Okay, so
Yeah,
just change
that's-
the water.
well,
Wait, say that again, you guys, because I'm sorry, my
That's
daughter
how
was
I did
calling
it.
about the tornadoes, freaking
you
out. But what?
theoretically, what you can do, you can, if you use a mesh that is large enough to capture the fry, but not large enough to catch the brine shrimp, you can scoop them out, put them into maybe just a holding container or another jar in your case, because you have lots of jars that already has water in it. And then you can then mesh out with a smaller mesh all the brine shrimp that are in the other one, and the new shrimp will go into the new jar. And then the next feeding, you can take and move it back the other way, move them into the water that you've already taken out the fry and taken out the Artemia, put them back in there. Like, it's a lot of work to do it that way, though. It's not something.
So I think I kind of was half listening because now I'm terrified about the tornado. Sorry, guys.
Oh,
But-
I didn't mean to turn myself off. I meant to make myself big. All right, so I bought this. Are you talking about a sieve? You can see the cobwebs. I haven't had fry for a long time,
Well,
but
So
it has
that'll
really
take,
tiny.
yeah, you can pour the water through that, and that will take out the depleted brine shrimp. But that's not sufficient to pull out the fry out of the water.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Uh,
Right.
Like,
No, I
there's
got you.
probably other ways, somebody smart can probably think of things, but that's the only thing I thought of just at the time. With me, I rigged up a system with mini filters, and even that was a problem because the fry could get sucked into the mini filters. So then I used some of that padding that I used for the quick filters. Remember last week?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry. I
the
was reading
filter
Zins.
pad.
Okay. I would cut a piece of that and put over the intake of this little tiny mini filter,
Mm-hmm.
and that would, and I had it set up on a timer, and I would turn the timer off when I went to feed, and I would take that filter out and clean off what it had gathered, put it back in, and then turn the timer on or set the timer so that it would start again in about 20 minutes or so. And it would draw the Artemia up against that filter pad. And then I could remove the ones that were stuck on that filter pad.
So forgive me for being stupid, but why are we removing? Oh, right, because of the system you're
Yeah,
using.
Because
yeah.
Right.
well,
So
they're
again,
depleted.
in my case, I had tubs I didn't remove fry.
I was really simple about it. I'd set them up a new house. So I had 2 of everything, right? I still do things that way. So I switch my decorations out that way while I'm cleaning. So I'd have 2 houses. Like in your situation, you have 2 jars, right? So you make them a fresh jar, with brand new seawater in it, put their brand new enriched food in it, a piece of gutter guard for them to hang on to. And then the way I did it is I scooped them out with a Dixie cup. I totally primitive.
Scooping out
And I
didn't-
get
so you
a
didn't-
little bit of their water, their old water would come in with them, but not a whole lot because they're in a Dixie cup. And
Right.
Artemia as
So-
well, the depleted ones.
Well,
Well,
not if she's scooping
there
out
wouldn't
from the
be
top.
much. But,
I
yeah,
used
there
to
wouldn't
load
be
that.
as much because at that point they've been eaten. This is for the fresh new feeding. So
No, I just used
I
a net that was big enough to capture the fry, but let the Artemia pass through. And there'd be a couple of Artemia that would stick to the mesh anyway, but basically get the fry out. And I never, like, people kept on telling me, well, you're exposing them to air. Well,
Yeah,
I had
that
a
does.
lot of years exposing them to air and didn't have problems. So
Yeah, no.
I have had to collect fry off my floor, and they survived
Yep.
after
Oh,
20
a
minutes
big
being
tap.
out of the tank. You
I
don't want
had
that
a-
to happen, but it happens, or
I
they
had
get
a
stuck to
system,
your body. I
like
used to get them stuck to my body from reaching in the tank.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Hope we
Okay,
have a
that's too
hard
much,
time using
Holly.
the Dixie cup in
That's
the
too
jars.
much. But I was going to say that, yeah, no, exactly. We talk about making, the seahorse immune system. And for anybody new, setting up correctly to make sure they don't have stress so that they don't get bacterial infections, so that they live happy lives in your tank and, you have a new pet, right? But in the cases that are extreme, for instance, when they start having fry, when I had my 65 gallon that had a sump that had an algae scrubber, and thank goodness for me, it was a custom made algae scrubber. So it had a section at the top before it hit the algae scrubber, pieces. I don't know how to describe them, but the mesh, right? There was a section above that they had to go through, and I always put some sort of foam or something over that piece just to keep anything from going into the algae scrubber and messing it up. And I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many times these seahorse fry, I would come home, and you have to understand, they're getting water poured over them coming into the sump, but they're literally laying in a piece of foam and getting water poured over them. So there's no breathing. There's no, and I'm not trying to give anybody nightmares here. But what I'm saying is they all survived. These seahorses are much stronger than we think they are. And yeah, like Holly was saying earlier, if you see a crisis situation and you still, oh my gosh, and I put them in salt water and whatever. And that's another reason to always have salt water at hand, prepared, ready, if you're trying to do fry. Or even with the larger seahorses, it's always good to have prepared salt water. But they would survive and they would be fine. They're stronger than we think. That was my only point. Backing up a little bit, Zen Ginger said she did a little bit of Googling, and it says that spirulina enriched BBS nutritional value plummets to almost nothing in 20 hours. So I think they'd be okay for half a day. What are your takes on that, guys?
I want to see the documentation where the source is.
I believe it, though.
The University of Ghent is the most recognized site for Artemia, the most recognized in the whole world. And they don't have any statistics on that. And the problem that I have is there's so much stuff that comes up. Yeah, the AI answers. And I can tell you, just as a matter of fact, today, I Googled how many calories there were in something. When I made a batch of dog food and I was compiling the calories on it. AI come up and told me that there was 133,000 calories in, I think it was 100 grams of this product. It should have been 133 calories per 100
So
grams.
I know what you're getting at, Ray.
So much for AI.
Right. Don't trust everything you read on the internet, right? But
Well, AI is getting it from their information from all the stuff that's
Right,
on the
which
internet.
can be wrong.
And if the internet's got a bunch of garbage on there, it's reading that garbage and giving you an answer from it.
So the answer is just come here. Come to Wine Wednesday. Go to Seahorse Whisperer group on Facebook. Let's do a post or come here and let's talk about it. And you're going to get different answers, right? Sophie's doing fry much differently than I did fry. So what? If she becomes successful, then you have two ways to do it depending on your situation. There are multiple answers. I agree with Ray. It's dangerous to just accept AI answers because they're coming from everybody, right? You know, you never know. But there are different answers. There are different ways to do it.
I mean, I would say that it says that it plummets to almost nothing in 20 hours. But then in 12 hours, it doesn't say that they're still enriched fully. I wouldn't say that in 12 hours they lose all of their enrichment, but if they lose about like half or 3/4,
that makes sense. Yes.
then they're not really, like, I wouldn't really feed them.
Well, the one thing about Artemia, and a lot of people have the misconception that Artemia are worthless. Artemia
That was a
have
question
a
earlier.
very good profile for
Yes.
protein. They just don't have the
Yes.
DHA. But for protein, so like even if they lose all that enrichment, they still have that
Yes.
protein. That's in the makeup of their bodies. And as a matter of fact, there's charts on that link to the Artemia bit that I
Yep.
gave you there. There are charts in there about the values and the actual nutrition of the Artemia and at certain stages or so on. And especially for, I think, Great Salt Lakes, which is mostly what we have available to us. I believe it's in the high 60s, the protein level of the Artemia then. And that's without any
Right.
enrichment.
So they're still good. They are
Yeah.
They're
not
still good.
just.
I mean,
Just
there
not
were
as good.
times my babies did not get enriched brine shrimp. They got the brine shrimp that I had ready.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
especially if I didn't have, if they were newborns and I didn't have the brine shrimp up and running, when the batch came in, they got copepods and not enriched brine shrimp.
Right.
And they made it. I have some turning 5 years old now. Kelly's Seahorse.
Yes.
They survived all the little the little things that happened along the way. They took many rides in siphon tubes and
Yes.
all,
Right.
all
They're
kinds
stronger
all
than we
kinds of
think.
things.
But
Yeah. Do
and
the best
Sophie,
you can for them. And I think
yes.
the feeding thing is make sure they always have food to eat
Yes.
is
Yes.
one of the keys.
And that's why we, of course, when you're when you're raising fry, that's why we try to convert them to frozen mysis as soon as possible, because that frozen mysis has the DHA and more of the stuff,
Mhm.
excuse me, that they
We
need.
don't have to do all that work of hatching.
Right, right. And in Sophie's case, though, I don't think you're doing anything wrong. If it was,
Mhm,
I'm guessing in the dark here,
mhm.
and now I've got sirens going off. If I all of a sudden disappear, guys, make sure I didn't have a tornado. But what I would say to you, Sophie, is that I don't think you're doing anything wrong. You're using Ray's method. It's different than mine. I could sit here and say it's because you're not doing this, that, and the other. No, it worked for him. It can work for you. I really believe that it takes a few times. I know you're on the third batch, but that's what I wanted to share is Shyla shared a picture of Fry when we were talking about the head versus
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
viable fry. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Sorry. Say something else, you guys. Oh my goodness.
Is that a tornado siren?
Yes, it is. I may have to go to my basement, y'all.
Sounds more, to me, it sounds more like a saw.
No, it's a tornado siren. But let me
I
share
never
this
heard
real
one.
quick.
We don't live where we have
Yeah, that's
tornadoes.
crazy. We never get any like natural disasters here.
Lucky you. All right.
No hurricanes, nor no
My kids
tornadoes.
keep
No,
texting
nothing.
and calling me too. And
Well, back in the 50s, we had one come through just north of London, but that was probably a whole 15 or 20-minute drive outside of London where it went through.
We get small ones in
Well,
the valley here. Kelly would laugh. You'll see, like on the news, one like took out somebody's barn or something. That's
yeah,
about the
no,
extent of.
it doesn't make sense here because we're flat. So we shouldn't have so many tornado crises, but we do. They just come here and the sirens keep going off. I probably will have to at least exclude myself from this soon. But let's look at Shyla's. These are, oh God,
Yeah,
what
look at him
species does she have?
go.
Are they whitey eye?
Whitey eye. She has
Yes.
whitey eye.
So you see how,
Oh, look at it.
and I can see in there, like there's some that are more head than tail, and there's some that look like mini seahorses. That's all
okay,
I
so
was
I have
saying.
a question for you guys. Is
Okay.
that like a good proportion? Like, is that what they're supposed to look like?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, see, mine look pretty similar to that.
And I was going to
Like,
say even fuller is even better, of course, but these fry look good to me. I would be like trying to raise these fry for sure. And look how they love the flow. All right, I'm done admiring the fry. All right, stop sharing.
Yeah,
But
they're adorable.
yeah, so
I personally think that doing more, spending more time and effort on enriching the Artemia and getting enriched food to the fry is probably only going to make a difference in the percentage of survivors that you have.
okay.
I think once, like, let's face it, I know people that, and as a matter of fact, my first batches, I didn't use any enrichment anyway because I didn't know then
Right.
that it
Yeah,
was best to use it. But if someone starts off without doing the enrichment, or if they're only doing it once a day or whatever, and if they succeed in producing some fry, I would say that the only benefit then is increasing the numbers that'll survive.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? Like Sophie is just learning. She just loves seahorses and is just doing her thing. If someone is trying to create a commercial business, there are
Oh, that's, yeah, we're talking
yes, we are
hobbyists.
absolutely
Yeah.
talking hobbyists. If you are trying to become a commercial breeder, I can absolutely help you and put you in touch with people that would help you even more than me. But I set my system up more on a commercial level to the lessest degree that you could do, right? Based on Dan's recommendations. So there's just different ways to do things. But I want to see Sophie succeed, but I'm thinking, Sophie, at this point, you don't even want to succeed because what are you going to do with them?
put them
Right?
in that tank. I have that tank, but then after that, I don't know what I'm gonna do with them. We'll see. That's gonna be a reason
We'll
for
put
me
them
to
for sale on
expand
the Seahorse sale
downstairs.
page.
Right. But what Ray just said is you'll put them for sale. As soon as seahorse, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as seahorses are weaned onto frozen food, they're going to look like seahorses because that frozen mysis all of a sudden bulks them out. And the age, of course, too. It's not just the food, but the age. And then they're ready to go to a home, So
I have
you
two
could do it that
stores.
way.
I have two stores that said they would take them, like they would buy them from me.
Nice.
I might not get the best price for them because stores, but I
Yes.
need to give them somewhere. So,
But the thing is, if you're just doing this to do it, like you just want to do it, you're not trying to make a business, you're not trying to make a future, you're just intelligent and want to do this and care about seahorses, and you sell, to a store that you deem fit to sell them, then yeah, no, that's awesome. Take the lower price, and you're gonna, as you get more successful, you're gonna have more and more and more, and you're gonna need someone to take them, right? So I don't see anything wrong with that.
You tell them you don't want anything less than half of what they're going to sell them for.
Well, you can get tough once they start selling, because I've been in a situation
No,
where, they don't sell, and it's, yeah. So
I need to give them
no,
somewhere.
I just plain told them.
I've had this discussion with my dad where he was like, well, if they don't give you this amount of money, then
right.
like you can't give them to them. And I'm like, well, I need to give them somewhere
Mm.
because I don't have the space for
Yeah.
them. So if they do
Ray
start
has
selling
some
them,
tanks still set up.
I think Ray.
Maybe
Get
we
Ray
could have
keeping
Ray be the
seahorses
keeper.
again. Yay! I want to see
Right?
that.
We'll find sources
Yes.
for them.
Right. That's the answer. But
And then there's another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys
please
about.
go ahead.
We were talking about it, me, Holly, and Ray. We're talking about it, the Siri that's growing on my Seahorse. I was just wondering if you guys had any idea of why. I have a few pictures here if you guys want to see
Yeah,
them.
sure.
Hold on.
I freaking love Siri. It is my favorite thing ever
Yeah.
about seahorses. They're so beautiful. I'm a hair person. I cut off all my hair, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you guys remember I had hair down to my butt. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Love
It still looks like a lot of hair, Kelly.
on the screen. Yeah, it's always thick, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What are we looking at, Miss Sophie?
It's not a ton.
Okay.
Here, hold on. This is the best
I see it.
picture I have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
You see it?
so pretty.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's
How
been
cute.
growing more and more. I just was wondering if you guys had any knew why this was.
So you're breaking up a little bit on audio, but you're asking, why is this particular seahorse growing Siri? No, make it big again. It's so pretty. And
Hold
the
on.
other seahorses are not. Oh God.
Yeah.
She's got a mane. She's a horsey with a
Yeah,
mane.
she does. Look
All
at
right.
all the way down her neck. Very cool.
Yes. All right, you guys talk first while I try to find a picture. Why do seahorses grow Siri, and or not?
Because
Holly?
she had it at the start, and then she lost it, and now she's growing it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Because she's
wondering
tired
why.
of
The
that
only
boy
reason-
chasing her all the time. She's trying to hide from him.
Good answer.
Instinct
Her a lot.
that's right in the seahorse itself is telling that seahorse to produce these because it feels that it's going to help it hide in the system that it's in. And the other one isn't getting the same vibes and isn't growing them. But that's a common thing. That happens quite often. You can get a batch where maybe a third of them are growing Siri and the other 2/3 are not. I never had a batch where they all grew Siri, but I have had batches where none of them grew Siri.
So I
Yeah,
don't.
see here.
Go ahead.
He doesn't have any.
Wait, you're breaking up. What'd you say? Repeat.
This is the male. This is Fitz. He doesn't have any, or like he has a few little at the top there, but other than that, he doesn't have anything on his head.
So Sophie, it's when you move to your, let's see, to you would be the right, to me it's the left. For some reason your audio cuts out. Maybe you have to be right in front of the computer. But go ahead. Go on.
So this is Fitz. This is my male. He doesn't have anything on his head. But then then she does. So Dot, my female, does have it on her head. You can see them.
Yeah.
They're both here, right?
Yes.
I don't know why.
How
Oh,
often
shit.
does it have
Okay. Sorry. Go on, guys. Sorry. Ignore me.
How often does he have fits?
Pardon?
How often does he have these fits?
Fitz never has them, and then Dot it has just been growing them for the past 2 weeks.
No. You named him Fit.
Yes, Fitz.
So I just said, well, we're having a fit.
No. His name is Fitz. His name is Fitzgerald. I gave them old people names, and then I gave them nicknames for their old people. So their names are Fitzgerald and Dorothy.
No, I can't hear you, Kelly. I saw your lips moving, but I couldn't hear you.
That's because I had it muted, so you guys couldn't hear the sirens going off.
Yeah.
I am gonna have to end this
Oh.
stream after I share this because my kids are calling. Everybody's freaking out. Apparently, there's a tornado.
Yeah.
Okay. But I did want to show you
Yeah.
real quick that these were my favorite. Wait, what the hell? Restore my chat. Okay, maybe I won't be able to restore. Let's see. I wanted to show you my favorite pictures. Okay, I can. All right, you guys ready? These were my baby dolls. Oh, baby dolls. And it might be messing up because I'm apparently in a crisis center. But okay. Can you guys see my baby? Look at that.
Wow.
Oh,
Siri.
yes.
I
Oh,
love it. And that was from like, what does it say?
so
2016.
adorable.
And then look at that baby. Oh, I miss them so much. So,
Aw.
in answer to your question, everything I've been told is that there's no answer, right? Because, oh, sorry. Because basically,
Here's a fry that wasn't viable.
oh,
Yeah,
good
no,
picture.
mine don't look like that.
No, good picture. Thank you, Molly.
That's a dead one, but yeah, there's a not viable
Right. When
fry
they look
for
like
you.
that, like they have no build.
I'm looking through
Yes.
all my pictures. I'm like, there's a prime
But
example.
so I would just say that with this series, there is no answer. As Ray was saying, nobody has an answer. It's really cool when they get it. Never buy a seahorse based on Siri because
I
they
didn't
will
know
likely
that.
lose it. Yeah. Because it's
Mhm.
as Ray said, I think in the wild they do grow Siri to blend in. I don't know why some of
Mhm.
them do it in a tank because in
Yeah.
my case, the picture that I showed you of my baby, he was the macho butch running the tank. He was in charge, right? He was the male of the tank. I knew he was a male. He was
I had
strong. He was
one
not
that
scared.
grew Siri like that
Yeah.
too.
So,
I had one like that too. Mine that had the most Siri was actually one of my friendliest
yes, or
seahorses.
the one in
So I
you
don't
do
know.
I mean, you will see that a certain seahorse in every situation kind of like takes charge and is running the tank with you. So even with fry and with adults, there's always
Here's some more not viable fry.
Okay, mine might not be viable. They look a little too close to that.
Yeah, see it.
so
These are really weak ones that didn't make it.
Yeah, see,
So
mine
yeah,
look,
when they have a weird shape to them,
yeah, mine look really similar to that.
but some of them did. Like I got, like I said, Scrappy Doo.
go ahead, keep talking.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I love it, so I'm very happy.
This was Scrappy Doo. See, he was a little scrap of a thing. Look how scrawny he was.
Wow. Yeah,
You know, he made it and he became, let me see if I have another picture of him. Here's one of my ones with Siri.
I can't see this
It's
theory.
faster for me to find him on the phone. Here we go. It's hard on the phone.
Yeah, it's a little too bright. Oh, I see a little bit of,
It's hard. Yeah.
yeah, I see a little bit.
Yeah. So you've got some long eyebrow ones.
Yeah. They look really cool, but if there's no way to know why they grow or not, it's just luck. Oh, Kelly left.
It's just yeah, it's just luck. Yeah, she probably because of the tornado stuff going on, I'm guessing.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Anyway, don't let a store con you into credits only,
No, I do not want
and
credits.
don't, yeah, and no less than 50% of what they're going to sell them for.
Yeah,
It's a fair price for them, and I never ever took less than 50%. Most of the time, I got more.
I'm gonna have to do some negotiating with the stores. Some of the stores
Well,
sell them for
And
a lot of money.
sometimes you can get them to sell them more. Like when I sold mine to a fish store, they told me they were going to sell them for $30. And that's why they didn't want to give me much for them. And I told them, I said, I showed them like what they're going for, on the other websites. I said, you can get more for them.
One of the
So
stores,
he ended up selling them for 60. He gave me like 30 each and he sold them, ended up selling them for 60. It did take him about 3 weeks to sell them.
one of the
he
stores
said,
that I'm
but
giving them to sells them. Hold on, let me search it up. But last time I checked, it was like 200 to 250 each.
we can sell them on the
oh
forums
wow.
for you.
I mean, if you have anyone that wants
Yeah.
seahorse, obviously once I have them. But if you have anyone who wants seahorses, I'll give seahorses. Yeah, see, this is. Oh no. Those are the.
Here you go.
This is on
Here's
sale.
that scrawny little seahorse grown up.
Wow.
He got big.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't give up just because they might not look great now. You can, get some of them to make it.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep trying.
It'll happen.
I'll keep trying.
Yeah, don't give up. Just keep
Yeah,
trying and
don't worry about it now. We'll
they'll keep
find
trying.
some ways to get them sold for you.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
It's harder here in Canada than it is in the U.S. because they have a greater population density there than what we have here in Canada.
Yeah.
But still, even if we can sell them to places in Toronto,
So I don't know if Ray, you've heard of the store Candy Corals. That's one of the places that said they would take them. And then do you know Bobby D's? It's in London.
no, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's a newer one.
But
They're just setting up their saltwater place, and that's
I can put you in touch with Zena down in the Toronto area, and pretty well anybody knows Zena down there. And if you have some to sell, she can put the word out.
all right. Thank you. Once I have some that I know will survive to be able to be sold, I will contact you about that.
Yeah, you're not going to sell them before 4 or 5 months anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
you got a ways to go.
I still have one. If they
Let's
even
get them
survive.
surviving first.
Ideally,
Yeah, get them surviving first.
you want them to be developed, the males to be developed ideally, or at least have a start on the development. But usually I found that if you're selling them at that point, there's some that, well, some are starting the development. There's others that are going to be males, but they're not started yet. And you sell them as females, and the customer gets mad.
Okay, I have a question. If that happens, what would you do? Would you just leave them with the seahorse that's a male, or that's a female, or no, that's a male that looked like a female?
Well, if they end up with 2 males, and if it's past when I sold them, like, I don't think I sold any at less than 6 months. And so at that point, well, generally speaking, I tell people when I'm selling them, it's always possible you can get a late developing male, and I can't do
Mhm.
anything about that.
Yeah, just let him go with a disclaimer.
Yeah.
But I never had that issue because, like Ray, mine were about 6 months old. I waited, until they were, grown up and I could tell.
Yeah. I also have to figure out a
I
way
had,
to have them a little bit less work while we're going on vacation, because we're going to go on vacation soon for 1 week and then another 2 weeks somewhere else. So there is a babysitter. She comes over here. She lives at our house, but I have to figure out an easier way for her to deal with this. She's probably not going to do the babies, but if I do have any ones that are alive in the big tank, then I'll have to figure something out for those ones.
Oh, so I
Right.
just
don't
talked
worry
to
about it when
Kelly,
the time comes.
but no internet and the lights are going on and off, so that's why she left.
Yeah.
But just a storm so far, she says. There's not
Yeah.
a tornado at her house,
Well, it's
thankfully.
10 o'clock now anyway, so we can
Yeah.
wind things down and
Yeah, it is getting late, huh?
we'll get things going again next week.
You guys
Yeah,
have
I'll try to
anything?
get my fry pictures ready to share for next week. I can share pictures of them growing up.
Yes.
Is is the fellow that you bought from going to come on next week?
Yes. Oh yeah. We're gonna have
Okay.
a special guest. He's
Awesome.
from Cultured by Science. He's gonna come on next week. I was actually supposed to talk to Kelly about that, but I'll talk to her later. Yeah.
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
So is he an aquaculturist
Yeah,
then?
he has a
Does he do only seahorses or other
no, he
things
does a
too?
ton of stuff. He has like an entire shed filled with stuff, and then he has his entire basement filled with like
Very cool.
corals, fish, shrimp, seahorses. We'll see next week. He
Awesome.
sent me some videos, so then we'll look at those next week. I'm really excited though.
Very
there's-
cool. Maybe he can help you with some tips with your babies.
Yeah.
Since he's been raising them.
No, he loves it when I ask him questions. Every time.
Yeah, I bet he'd be happy to share, and he's right in the thick of it right now. So he might know some things and have some tips,
He did. He
that
had
some of us might not even know
I
about.
asked him right when I started, and he just said to change the water like every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many ways
Yeah.
to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that I started off with is primarily because it's something that it's about the simplest way that you could handle it, and the least amount of room until you get into having large batches. Um, and in your situation, you don't have the room
Yeah.
to put tubs up, and you can graduate. You can, instead of doing it with these jars, you can graduate to doing it in aquariums. But I always found it problematic with the aquariums because of the corners. You couldn't get the motion going sufficient, so you didn't have dead spots.
Yeah.
Whereas the jars, you could keep it so that there weren't dead spots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I find the
So,
jars good. I mean, none of them have survived so far, but I do find like I like them. They're
yeah.
easy enough to do. Do we have any more questions?
Anyhow,
Um,
No,
no more questions.
Kelly just says she wants to apologize, but yeah, she's in the middle of a big storm and lost her internet and power's going out. So not much she can do about
Well,
that.
yeah, that's
I
fine.
I want to get doing something with my dogs, so I'm going to sign off now.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
See-
See you next week.
Good night, guys. We'll see you next week.
Wait, guys, how do we like make it not live?
we can't end it because Kelly started it.
All right. Wait, I can
So
sign
we
on.
just have to leave, I think.
Okay. I can also sign on as Kelly and just end it myself. Should I do that, or should we all just?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. I'll just hit my leave button and come out, but you can probably, go out, and come back in on yours and officially end it, like if you have the ability to do that.
Yeah. Hold on.
Okay, we'll talk with you
I
later.
brought Kelly on chat so I could ask.
Yeah.
So I
All
could
right.
ask her
Bye,
real quick.
Ray. Good night.
Good night. She said just end it when you're ready. So
Yeah. Hold on. I'm just going into Restream here. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna.
I'll ask her.
All right. There we go.
All right. Perfect. Now you can do it officially.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. There we go.
All right. So I'm going to hit my leave button.
Hold on,
and
let
say
me just
goodnight
end
to
the stream.
everybody.
All right. I'm just going to end the stream now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone.
All
We'll
right.
see you guys next week. I cannot turn on my camera right now. I don't know why it's not letting me, so I'm not doing that. And we'll see you next week when we have our special guest in.